Hi everyone, let's start today's call. Our first agenda item is to look at the current spring tickets and then to see if there's anything need to be addressed. So I know Simon has made some progress on exams reform. So Simon, do you just want to give us an update how it for this past week?
Yeah, I finalized on the CDM forms, both of them, and gave them out for testing. So this Wednesday, we had a meeting with the CDM team. So they were testing on the aspects of reminders and how the questions were programmed, and they gave some feedback. So somehow they need some features which are dependent on the historical data. But as per the agreement, we agreed that those ones will not be done at for now. And then they needed to be made the changes and give them out back again for them to do further testing. And there's one or two things which the CDM team need to give more information so that I can update the form.
Okay, so I know that there's new concept need to be added. I wonder if those are ready for you.
Yeah, there's only one, I think one remaining, because there's a question they want to introduce. When you are answering the adherence question, they want to know if you missed medications, what are those medications? So that question of collecting the type of medication missed was not there, and they want to introduce it. So I believe there's an existing concept, but at least for them, they have to tell me this is the concept ID so that I can go ahead.
Okay. Hi, Kenneth. Do you know if that is done already?
Not yet. I'm still following up with FCT. Probably before the end of the day, I'll have feedback. Yes.
Okay. So except that one concept, is there other things that you need, Simon? Simon, except that one new concept that we're waiting for the concept team, what other information that you need from CDM? Can you hear me, Simon?
Yeah,
Can you guys
now.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm saying now I can hear you. Initially, you were breaking.
Okay, so I was asking that except the new concept that we're waiting from CDM from form team, what other information do you need from CDM? So you're on mute in case you're talking, Simon.
I lost you again, Ada.
What did you say, Simon?
I lost you, but
I think maybe it's poor in the connection today. So maybe I can follow up with Simon through the ticket. I just wonder if others can hear me okay.
Yeah, Ada, we can hear you.
Okay, good. So maybe it's Simon's connection. Sorry about that. And those are for the CDM forms, and we have started working on the medical use and cost assessment form. Some question has been clarified, and I will start doing the mapping and creating the concepts for that before it moves to Simon's queue. That's pretty much for this form. And Derek, thanks for resetting my password. And I think Derek just got dropped off as well. And there is another update.
I'm here. I'm joining together with Lawrence.
Oh, okay. Hi, Derek. Thanks for resetting my password.
Thank you.
And there's another ticket I would like to give an update is the testing mUzima with in OpenRMS 1.11.5, and so we list out all these test steps that we need to do. However, we've been having blocker this week with the MPAT test server. And first, there wasn't a public IP assigned, and then once it was assigned, and then the traffic was really heavy, and then they take it off. So it's no longer available from. It's not easy for us to do testing because it has to be done within the local area network with a Wi-Fi access, and also there is an invalid SSL applied. We cannot even move forward with authenticate with those system. So we're putting this on hold and waiting for the system admin team to resolve that before we can even move forward. So that's pretty much the status for this ticket. I wonder if there's any questions or comments for tickets on current sprint. And I know Ruth. Hi, Rubai. I know that Ruth has been spending time on testing device management security as well. I don't see she's on here. Maybe when she's on later on, and we can go back to the device management and security ticket. Okay. Any questions or comments regarding current spring ticket? If not, I would like to move to the next agenda item, which is the mobile CDSS discussions. Sam, Martin, and Simon had discussions earlier this week. They shared the meeting notes with us, and I wonder if Martin and Simon maybe can help us to maybe give us a summary and then any discussion points that we should do during today's call. And Martin and Simon?
I think Sabai can take a lead because I'm
okay.
So Sabai, go ahead.
Simon? Yeah, I wonder if Simon has back connection from his side. Yeah, he got dropped off. Okay. So actually,
yeah, I can talk.
Okay.
Do historical reminders, do clinical summaries, and also do real-time reminders for mUzima. And so we've documented the notes. There's still a lot of work to do by individuals. So we're going to reconvene again in a couple of weeks to finalize some of the discussions. But obviously it will help make some of the reminders, for example, on the CDM thing, a little bit better.
Yes.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, I'm not sure if others have got a chance to read through it, and I did, and I have some questions.
Yeah, Ida.
Go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to bring maybe some of the questions that we can discuss here, and also like share with other team members because I'm not sure that they got a chance to read through it. So I noticed here say that I think most of the decisions like the data wipe out as well as how to download the additional concept and observations for historical ops so that it can be used for comparing or be used for the reminder logics and things like that. So right now we have the on-demand option to download selected concepts, but I think it would be quite cumbersome for user to do it on demand. And is it possible to do one suggestions, like, for example, most of the time when we roll, I think we can do it like two options I can think of. One is through the form templates. Let's say that most of the time when there's a new reminder, it's usually related to a new form rollout for a program and things like that. Can we embed those historical concepts on the form template so that they will be passed and related observation will be downloaded, even though those concepts are not being used for collecting additional new data? So that's one option. Another thing is reminders also likely to be associated with certain cohort groups, and maybe we can also think of when certain cohorts are being downloaded, we also embedded addition, those historical observations to be downloaded at the same time as well. So I can only think of two options that might be more convenient instead of like doing on demand. I don't know what other people think. Are you guys there? Hello?
Yeah, we are here.
Okay, cool. I just wonder if you guys have other thoughts or comments. I just simply throw in options and wonder what you guys think, and then maybe you guys just can stimulate you guys other thoughts, and then to see if you have other, ideas or suggestions. Anyone? Okay. If not, maybe I can just share through the notes and things like that. And then another one I think is about data wipeout.
Yeah. So, sorry, I was on mute.
Okay.
No, I think it would be helpful to get opinions from other people, because then otherwise this just becomes a two-way conversation, and then you're really not having a conference call. So, now just encourage people to try to contribute to the conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I think we're just trying to share our thoughts and then to stimulate other members, thoughts and ideas. Yeah. So it'll be good to hear from others. Silence? So, the purpose of this discussion is simply to throw out all the possibility that we should consider, and then try to cover as many use cases as possible. It would be really helpful if you guys can share your thoughts.
Do people actually understand what we are talking about?
I can repeat or give a bit more background at the beginning. Maybe I can try again. So,
or maybe let's try to have someone else give us a sense of what they understand we are talking about. That way we're just not talking to ourselves. Or if it's decided that it's not relevant to the other group, then we don't spend a lot of time trying to discuss. But maybe someone else, because I hear Ada talking a lot, and I feel bad for her, trying to kind of just paraphrase for the group what the issue is that Ada is trying to have us discuss.
Lawrence, can it? So we just wondered what you guys understand, what we just mentioned about, and if you have, questions or other thoughts, maybe better options to consider. Can you guys hear me? Okay. Anyone?
Heather, we can hear you. We are still brainstorming. I think we can continue.
Yeah. So so Derek, Lawrence, and Kenny, Florida, Simon. So what we're trying to do is that to stimulate like a conversation and discussions, especially from you guys' perspective, so that we are not missing and maybe some of the important components when we try to do the design. So basically, like when you think about it, the current workflow, how the observations being downloaded is that we only downloaded all those concepts. They are included in the form template. So doing that form template download process, we pass through the form template and download related observation based on those concepts on the form template. So that's why we don't have all the observations for a particular client for the reason of for the obvious reason, because of the usage of the data and downloading time, things like that. So we make the decision to only download those concepts that they are on the form template. And we also add a feature that you can download concepts and associated observations on demand under the setting. I'm sure you guys are very familiar with that as well. And so right now the question is, if we move forward with the clinical reminder part for the for mUzima on the mobile side, it's likely to compare with some other historical observations that are not being part of the data collection form. And we want to have like a convenient method for such transactions so that the user doesn't have to go to select concept and their observation to be downloaded on demand, because it might be a system administration and implementation nightmare that, for example, like for CDM and for LARC, you might need to do so many on demand one by one for each device, which is quite cumbersome. So we are simply trying to collect some ideas from you guys, what your view is, what is the most convenient way this transaction should be done. So I was trying to throw in a couple of suggestions earlier that maybe we should consider that we embedded those additional historical observations concepts on the form template, even though we're not collecting those observations on the data collection form. So just simply because from looking at the user implementation request, when a new form implement, usually they would like to have certain reminders. So I think one of the options that we can consider may be to add all those additional concepts that we need historical data for the reminders. Another option that I was suggesting is maybe through the cohort list download, as it's usually when the reminders are being needed for a specific cohort. So that was like two options that I could quickly, think of when trying to address this issue. So we wonder if your thoughts on these two options, as well as whether you guys might have other thoughts and suggestions. I hope it's clear, or feel free to ask any questions.
So Eda, when you say the extra observations needed that are not part of the data collection form
Yes.
will be integrated into the form, is that going to happen during the programming of the form?
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting.
Okay.
Yeah, so that this way, let's say that, like for example, like for CDN form, for example, like you guys need certain lab tests, right? To compare. Let's say that, oh, if certain labs test 6 months ago with this value, there's no such lab order for 6 months. Please order this test, things like that. Because we're not even collecting this information for this particular test. We simply want to check the historical data, whether this lab test was done 6 months, within the last 6 months. We can include these concepts in the form template so that it will pass this historical data into the device, so that you don't need to do it on demand. Say that, oh, please add, under settings, search, add new concepts, and then pass the related those observations. So that's what maybe it's more convenience doing the setup, so that it's reduce the burden of the implementation.
I totally agree with that option, but I think at the same time, then the projects will really have to be tolerant and agree on what variables they're picking up for a form, so that it's one time. Much as the other option of downloading the concepts as you set up is a more convenient one. In terms of, if I decided today I needed something extra, I would add it. But I think the form one is the best, and I think people just have to be able to settle down on what they need for a time period, and maybe review it the next time the form is being programmed for changes. Otherwise, I think for me, in my perspective, I think that's the best option.
Yeah, because as you know, usually, you remember, we'll ask you guys, hey, you want to implement this form, what reminders, can you list out all the reminders clearly, so that when our developers try to apply the logic for those reminders, when, for example, someone said, oh, peak city data is not part of it, so we cannot compare, let's say that. And then we can, include that particular concept, so that when it passes, doing the form template download, we can still pass and download related historical observations, so that we can use it for, for the criteria for the logic. So that's one option. Another option is through the cohort that I can think of. I don't know if there's other option that you guys might have, other thoughts, other suggestions. So what other people think for those options? Maybe new option.
I think choosing an option for the cohorts, that would be better for me. I thought so.
Can you share more thoughts on that one, Derek? Why you think maybe downloading additional historical data when updating, when downloading cohort list might be a better option for you?
Since currently we have, when I'm looking at LAC study, for example, we have our cohort based on community units. And that one would mean that all the cohorts on that particular community unit would be downloaded as once. And you'd find that for each individual device, it would be more cumbersome for us to download per individual device. So I thought being as a cohort that from one specific community unit would be better. That's what I thought.
Okay, yeah. So another thing that I think we need to think of is that if any downloaded concept and observations that are being used as part of the reminders, we should lock those concepts and observations so that they would not be able to delete it on the device. If not, we will not be able to, the reminder will not work. I think that's another thing that we need to make sure that is the condition. Like for example, like let's assume that we have this function, feature say that, oh yes, now we can download additional concepts. Yes, all this observation can be downloaded and things like that. We want to make sure that those concepts being downloaded will not be cannot be wiped out or removed if it's being used for the reminders logic. I don't know if you guys agree. It's for really one simple reason, because let's say that you're trying to do like a CD4 reminder, and if there's nothing, if you delete it, of course that reminder always would pop out say that, oh, there's no CD4 done, at all, because there's no such data to compare. So I'm sure like for the provider, it will be annoying why it's keep popping up. Are they resolve it? Are they order it? Things like that. And just to reduce confusion, as well as making sure that we have sufficient data to the best that we could execute those reminders, I think we need to put the condition that any download the concept observations to be used for reminders should not be removed. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree with that, Edda. So the observations that are being used to trigger reminders, I think those ones should be always remain on the device. However, I'm looking at a scenario where there are very old reminders on a device that are no longer in use. For example, if a particular device has been set up and has been in use for over 3 years, you see, during this period there would be a lot of data on the device, or be related. So the kind of observations we want to download maybe should be over for the last 1 year or for the last only 2 years, and all the others, probably if they're not in use, then you don't need to download them to the device. So besides saying that these particular observations should always remain on the device, I think we should also look at the time aspect to decide what observations to download and for how long will they stay on that device.
So I think your concern is about the size and storage and performance.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I wonder how much processing effort to make sure that certain value up to when and all those things. I think it would. My quick thought is it would be quite it would require quite a lot of transactions, especially when we implement so many reminders, and so that means we have a lot of concepts and observations, and then different ones have different look at different time frames, for the criteria, and yeah. Yeah, I don't know how that can be implemented, especially if we start to do saying that we only want concept 1 to 5 for 6 months, but then concept 6 to 10 is for last year. It might create some confusions as well. That's why I swear, someone said, oh, I swear I have more data for this client, but he only showed me some of that. I'm just simply trying to throw some potential challenges that so that we can consider on this, on this one. But I understand your point that it's more like storage size and performance issues on the device if so much data being loaded to the device, and yeah. I don't know what other people think. The first question I would throw in is like because the potential confusion on selected values. I don't know what other members think. So, Lawrence, Derek?
I don't know if my understanding is the same as Simon's. When you mentioned that, I'm not sure if we had in mind looking at a particular reminder, and saying we probably need a reminder to be triggered if a certain lab test has not been done. So maybe 1 year down the line, we no longer need that reminder. I don't know if that's what he means, or that's totally different. Simon.
No, it was not really keeping the reminders in the device per se, but if a provider has been using a device for a very long period of time, there will come a time when they no longer need particular patient data if it's too old on that device. So probably they will want to be looking at the newer data, and also the reminders would be based on newer data. So I was thinking, for example, when we are downloading the observations to the device, maybe we could have a setting that says we only want observations that are 3 years that have been that were entered up to 3 years ago.
Oh, okay. Now I understand. There was this point where you mentioned about wiping out something. I don't know if you meant wiping out the data, or probably Ada, you could briefly explain that.
No, the wiping part, I think it was just in response to what Ada had suggested. If certain observations are being depended upon to trigger reminders, then we should make sure that those observations cannot be deleted from the device, which makes sense.
Oh, okay.
How about Kenneth, Florida? Maybe Florida doesn't have a mic, but how about Kenneth? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe Kenneth has connection issue as well, maybe? Okay. So, Simon, I wonder if you can share what you guys discussed in terms of data wipeout parts. I think that part also may be good for you to share with the team so that it can we can have discussion on that one as well. Okay, so this part.
Is Sabai talking?
Yeah, I think what we talked about on that part is that every time you sync data to the server, you download reminders, and that means that at that point we will wipe out the reminders that were previously downloaded on the device, so that we download a fresh copy of those reminders. But in future, we should implement the diff function, so we only download new reminders that are not yet downloaded on the device.
So,
Simon,
go ahead. Go ahead.
Is it the reminders being wiped out, or the data, the definitions of the data we need for the reminder?
The reminders.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Lawrence, here we are talking about historical reminders, and not the reminders that are generated on the device.
And I think there's another good point maybe we want to discuss is the second bullet point highlighted is that there are a couple ways of dealing with historical reminders on mobile. One is you could show the historical reminders before the form is filled, or wait until the form is filled and see what has not been done or has been done based on the historical reminders, and then only show those. I also agree the second one is make more sense to me, but how to say, but I can argue that I can have another use case, like I can argue, like for example, maybe when the provider fill out the form supposed to have the question that need to order the CD4, let's say that, but then the provider did not order the CD4, even though there's a CD4 reminder already generated before form filling out part happened. So that form is being saved as complete form data, and then trigger the reminder and then display again, and then the provider need to go back and edit the complete form data and then update the particular one. I think that it has pros and cons in each way. And also when we say that for the second approach, I assume that you guys mean that you only compare after the form data has been completed and saved as complete form data. So what if, let's say that, what if the provider go back and make changes on certain value that actually affect the criteria for triggering the reminder? What actually will happen then? Like for example, a CD4 was did not order, and then the order CD4 reminder show up, and then the provider go back to edit the value on the form data, and then to order this and save a form data again. And should this CD4 reminder be resolved? And then another thing to consider is that, let's say that a provider take that he ordered a CD4 for this particular encounter. Does it mean that the CD4 reminder has been resolved, and then later on, since the form data hasn't been synchronized to the form server, to the server, and then the provider go back and edit this information to uncheck this option? So would this CD4 reminder to pop up again? Anyone? So I'm just like simply throw in some of the odd scenarios that to trigger you guys, discussions.
Edgar, can you repeat the two options?
Yeah. So for the first scenario is that there's a CD4 reminder on the phone, and on the form, the first time that the provider order the CD4 test, and then save as complete form data, will this CD4 reminder be resolved? If yes, how about for the scenario that?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a potential complication, but it's important to separate historical reminders, meaning reminders based on data that was already on the server side and the logic was generated from the server side, from reminders based on the logic within a form. So, for example, right now within CDM, we have reminders based on the logic on the form as has been programmed. What we decided yesterday is that displaying historical reminders after you look at the complete form data is just quite complex at this point. Okay, and so we'd rather at the beginning maybe just show the historical reminders that are needed even before somebody does anything. It's just a little bit easier to do that at this point.
So
and not worry too much about whether the reminders will be displayed after the form is completed itself. Am I making sense?
So are we saying that for the first pass that the reminder was simply based on the historical data, not including the new data being collected on the current form?
No, we said there's some reminders that can be based on the current form itself, similar to what we've done with chronic disease. And then there will be some reminders based on historical data. Okay? But what we won't try to do in this first pass is to try to determine when the historical reminders get shown up based on what was entered on that form, just because the actions can be quite variable. Okay? And so, if I have a historical reminder that says, please order CD4 count, and I want to insist that the end, if CD4 count was not ordered, then I have to actually have additional logic within the reminders that get downloaded from the server, which tells us what exact concept action, actually, what the exact concept question pair is, OBS question pair is, like in terms of concept answer pair is. So if I say, please order CD4, then within that reminder, I also have to say, I expect that to be CD4. You know what I mean? And then use that at the end of the complete form that action was taken. It's just, it gets quite messy when you think about it, because we have to do a lot of work to get that to work.
So I think maybe, I don't know if other people can hear Martin. I think what Martin is trying to say is that we're going to split, categorize this into two different types of reminders. One is reminders are being generated by the historical data from the server side, and another one is a real-time reminder would be triggered by the data collection during this particular visit, so that we are not confusing or avoiding all these maybe potential data changes for the new encounters that might affect the logic for the historical reminders. I'm not sure if I think that's what Martin's trying to share with us. I don't know if other people have other thoughts of this proposal. So basically, we have two different type of two categories of reminder: historical reminders based on historical data being generated from the server and synced to the device, and then one is real-time reminder based on the current data collection for this particular encounter. Lawrence said that it makes sense, and I wonder how what Derek, Kenneth, and Florida think.
I think from my perspective, I would say It's okay to be done as Martin has just like explained, because we have that contain historical data that would be synced either from the cohort, the server, and the reminders on the form, just like they are happening currently. I think that one would work.
Can it? How about Florida? You can type on the chat. And Simon? Okay. So Florida share the comment that real-time reminder based on the filling of the form is good. Okay, cool. So so Martin, is there other or Simon, that is there other thing that you guys want to share from your discussions?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. So out of this conversation, we just have to figure out the workflow of displaying historical reminders. Like, do they show up as notifications? Do they pop up as soon as you open a new form to enter data for a client? Because different forms will require different reminders, historical reminders. So suppose you just have to think a little bit more about that, okay?
Yeah.
And the second thing, and I might have missed a good chunk of the earlier conversation, once we have forms that use historical data for the reminders, what happens when you delete that form to the historical obs that were purely to be used for the reminders? So we need to do a little bit of better cleanup of that data. So suppose that form, the version of the form has been changed, the reminders have changed. Okay, some of the concepts will be concepts that have obs that we still need, concepts that were for the reminders and will no longer be needed. We just have to figure out how to clean those up well enough. Am I making sense?
Yes, because I think you have a good point. Like, by removing the downloaded form templates, what happened, right? Especially maybe the form templates include some of the concept and observation that are needed for other reminders.
Yes, something to that effect.
Is it what you mean, Martin?
Yes.
Okay. So can we just okay. I think maybe we need to check actually removing the form templates actually remove the concept and observations first.
Yeah, but you only want to remove the concepts and observations that were purely for reminders, right?
Yes.
Does that make sense? Because there's some concepts that were purely, some concepts are used within reminders, but also there are concepts that the user wanted to have in the first place. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So suppose I say A1C, right? Hemoglobin A1C. I might want to display it, but I might also use it for historical, for to compare all data, right?
Yes, I think this.
So if I go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is exactly what I have in mind in the beginning of the conversation, that we lock this concept and observation that they're not be whenever they're being used for reminder, any part of reminder, it should not be wiped out, should not be removed.
Well, no, but you should wipe it out if it's that form is being deleted. That will never be used for a reminder or will never be needed for an observation as part of observations. So there's room to delete some of the observations. You just have to make sure that you're not deleting things that don't need to be deleted, and you're keeping those that still are needed.
Exactly. Yeah, I think we're on the same page on this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. Yes.
So I might have missed the conversation.
Yeah, I think probably it's the connection earlier. It's like in and out. Yeah. So this is exactly my first concern. Like, we don't want some of the the components of the reminders being removed. We need to have like a check that any components being used for the reminders, I would consider they are being locked, so that we can delete them. If not, it will be problematic that the reminder become useless because no data to use to compare or to look at. Okay, cool. So I think we have like 5 minutes left, but I think this is a great discussion, and I hope that you guys find it helpful. And please spend some time to look through the document and try to comment on it, or even send through listserv, and then we can continue these discussions. Hopefully, we can have most of the questions and scenarios being considered, even though you might think, oh, I don't really understand all these things, but try to think of what use cases and scenario that you think this might be affected, and then you can share those use cases and scenario with us so that we can cover and consider those as well. That would be really, really helpful if you guys can do that. And since we have 5 minutes left, I just want to move to the implementation updates, just to have like a touch base with CDM team and LAC team to see how things are going with them. CDM?
Derek speaking.
Oh, hi, Derek.
Yeah, for the lab teams, sorry?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, for the lab team, I think I would say things are working on good. I managed to go out one day this week on Tuesday, out in the field with the team, and we were trying to see much about how they should be working using the screening form, and during the screenings. And I just came to learn now that maybe the RAs, within no time, they have not like filled a number of screening forms to the patients that screen positively for elevated blood pressure. And it was just a recap to them and also a small like training on exactly what's supposed to be done. We've also scheduled as luck that the following week we'll be going also out in the field, and we'll be like going out together with the CGWs to make sure that find out who are these particular patients who are supposed to be linked and haven't been linked, and who are these particular patients that should be followed by the RAs together with the community units. So I'll be also helping them to make sure that we have correct data into the server in terms of the behavioral assessment tools. To make sure that also comes in. That's all we have as now. But about the VM server, it was offline a few days ago, and thanks to Eda for raising the red alarm, and also thanks for the other informatics team that came in and also helped me sort that out. What happened is there were firewall issues over this way, and we're happy that we sorted that out. So far, so good. So what the RAs, what we did with the RAs towards synchronizing the costing questionnaire forms is we did that locally because it could be accessed locally. So far so good, I would say.
Thanks, Derek.
Thanks.
At the CDM, we are doing fine. We received the new devices this week. They're actually the same ones we used to test the dispensary form. And we hope to get more feedback from Savai because I assigned him one, so he can probably on and off use it as he does the programming. Error resolution, we are up to date, I think. There are a couple of forms, I think 10 of them still disappearing in the backend. We can't view them on the front end, but I think Tor has raised that with Simon.
Yeah, those are the old one, right?
Yes, I'm sure they must be among the old ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we are recording a slow usage by some providers in the field, and we want to get to the bottom of that. We'll try follow up this week and see why they're not able to push in forms.
What is it again for the provider?
No, the slow usage. We are not, like, the forms are not trickling in as expected.
You expect more complete forms being synced?
Yes.
Okay.
So we'll follow up with them this week. There's a visit to Busia, so I'll try to be there and see. Why.
Busia is far.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Good break from the office, though.
Yes. Cool. Let us know what you found out, and I really appreciate that from that you guys have been sharing your implementation experience and feedback on different things. And for example, you know, the check digits issues. I don't know if you got another chance to look at it further. I just want to clarify that the check digit algorithm on the mUzima app as well as the registration form are being applied correctly. So is the issue on the universal ID being generated or given out to you guys is not really on our side. I just wonder if you got a chance to collect additional more problematic MRS ID with incorrect check digits. Those are printed on the ID card. Because if so, I think it would be a good time to address to Adina, so that since like we're also doing testing for 1.1, 1.5, I shared that with him already. But I think if you can share more, you know, the actual card with the incorrect ID, I think that would be really helpful.
Okay. Yes, I do.
Okay. Thanks. So we it's 1 minute past. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful weekend, and please try to think of the mobile CDSS and also the reminder and all those use cases and things like that, and share your comment and thoughts with us. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.